Okay, so I'm about to be interviewed about some pretty heavy stuff. Um, yeah. Okay, so I gotta actually prepare. I need to actually prepare because I'm about to get interviewed supposedly. Content warning. Wait. Okay, so here's the warning. Here is the warning I'm about to give. I'm about to be interviewed by somebody called Amy C3, and I'm going to be I should probably get rid of the hat because this is a pretty serious topic. Um, I'm going to be talking about the time I was raped and the time I was sexually assaulted. To try to highlight the challenges that people who have faced those things have, and specifically male victims of rape and sexual assault. So your content warnings right here. If you can't sit in on that, then I do suggest, while I love your viewership, I don't want you to put yourself through something that you don't want to have to sit through. Okay, let's. Oh, I'm never nervous until right before it. Okay, let's get ready to call. I need to get rid of the hat. I need to get rid of the hat. I just need to. I just don't think the hat's appropriate. Okay.
Hi.
Hello? Hey, how's it going?
Well, how are you?
I'm doing okay.
I'm gonna just put this over here.
No problem.
All right, everyone, this is Dylan. You might know who he is because he is a streamer and is a leftist streamer who you talk a lot about foreign policy, right? That's kind of your specialty.
Yeah, I was a foreign policy advisor for the Michaela Wilkes campaign and Senator Jill Carter.
That's amazing.
Thank
All
you.
right, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, then we'll kind of get this going.
Sure. My name's Dylan Burns. I am a foreign policy. Well, I was. The campaign's over. I'm a political consultant, former foreign policy advisor,
A curd
and
is a curd.
general just campaign worker. And I yeah, that's based. And what I do on Twitch is basically cover foreign policy, and I host debates on Fridays.
Oh, hell yeah. I saw that you're starting a new gig. It sounds like maybe you can't say too much about it, but that's pretty exciting.
I've started a few new. I'm gonna be starting a few new gigs. I've just joined a new campaign. I will be joining a institute of some sort possibly soon, and I just got a job as a political consultant. But due to the work being very different than what I do on Twitch, I can't really get more in depth on
A
that.
curd is a
Oh
curd.
wow, it sounds like that you've got a lot of good things going for you. That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Alrighty, so we're kind of putting together. We were working with Kez, who was putting together like some panels and interviews to help broaden this discussion that we're seeing specifically on Twitch with regard to sexual harassment and survivors coming forward with their stories of sexual assault and rape. And so I wanted to thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your experience. We want to make sure that we're creating a safe environment, chat. So please be mindful and take into consideration that this is a very sensitive topic. So that being said, do you want to kind of take the floor? Do you want me
Sure,
to?
I can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, this is oh, also I the I don't usually wear a bandana. I'm playing a new cowboy game, so I was dressed up as a cowboy. So the cowboy stuff has nothing related to the discussion. I just wanted to get that out of the way. Okay. And I'm also not a blood. I wanted to get both of those out of the way. Okay. So I very recently went public about this, and honestly, I very recently realized that this is something that like happened. It's weird, because I didn't really realize I was a victim of rape and sexual assault until like a month ago. Even though these are things that happened to me years ago, it's it's very strange, and I think it has to do with a lot of factors. But first, I think I'll just say what happened, and I do want to say it is pretty yeah, it's a little intense. I won't go into too many details. Obviously, I'm not going to go in specifics, but basically, I'll give the two instances that I dealt with. When I was a very young child, I was around 5 or 6. While I was going to school, my mother had a lot of drug problems, and due to this, she would not be able to pick me up at appropriate times on many different occasions. And on one said occasion, where she was not able to pick me up because she was shooting dope, a larger man that I don't really know too much about, I don't know who this person is, came into the room when I was put away in, since the day was over, the school day was over, and orally raped me when I was about 5 or 6, and that was something that happened. I didn't really talk about it for about 10 or 12. I haven't talked about it until like 1 year ago. I never even really brought it up with therapists, or when I did bring it up with therapists on very few occasions, it was kind of this thing where this is something that anytime I've talked about, and I think this has to do with stigmatization of do you know the word I'm trying to get at? The stigma surrounding it. I'll just say it that way. Mm-hmm. The stigma surrounding it. That anytime I bring it up to a therapist on very few occasions, the few I did, and again, I never pictured it as what happened to me being rape, because I just didn't think of it in that manner. It was just something that happened to me, and when I did bring it to therapists or family members, it was just kind of like oh, that happened? Man, that sucks. I remember on one occasion, a therapist honestly just gave me like a bag of goldfish as like oh, that's really sad. Do you want a goldfish from my goldfish bowl? And that was the only care I was given from paid professionals, which is weird. And so I guess for me, when I brought that to professionals and that was the reaction I got, I just felt like, oh, okay, so this isn't that serious. And that's how I treated it. That it isn't a serious type thing. That it's, you know what, it just happened to me. And that same mentality happened when I got older, when I was 16, and I was on a boat with a older woman in her late 40s, and she started to sexually assault me. I don't want to get into too much detail, but she started to put her hands where they shouldn't have gone when I was 16. And the thing about that was there was multiple other adults on said boat when it was going on, and afterwards I was blamed for it occurring. I was told that, well, Dylan, if anything, this should be a learning experience for you, because you didn't push her off when you definitely could have. So, it's kind of your fault. And that's how it was treated towards me. And basically the idea was that you didn't man up. You could just pushed her off. You're obviously bigger and stronger than this person. Well, she was taller than me, but I was bulkier. I weighed more. I could have, but I froze up. I was scared. And so those two experiences, because of that's how they were treated towards me, I never got the proper help I needed, and a lot of psychological issues that I dealt with down the road, I attributed to other things where I think a lot of them had to do with that, and I never treated it seriously. At about a month ago, when I was talking with my spouse, I was explaining these two different things that happened to me, and when I said it out loud, now that I'm older, and I started talking about this because all of this stuff on the Twitch platform was coming out of content creators acting in a completely disgusting manner. How many pedophile creators there are actually like out there, ones that have interacted with underage fans in an extremely inappropriate manner, and I realized, and it's a weird thing to realize years later that you're raped, because it's like this weird realization that there was this like really like evil thing done to you, and you just have been like digging it and like throwing it away for so long, even though the memories of said like thing would come back to me in weird ways. I don't want to get too much into it, but for instance, like, um, since I was 5 when it happened, you don't remember everything about it because number one, I got a bad memory, and number two, uh, I guess it just has to do with trauma that I don't remember a ton about it. But what I do remember, and this is the thing that would always come back to me anytime I think about it, and it's part of the reason why I didn't think about it a lot, was that when I did, I'd remember the taste, and it's extremely vivid. And you could see, well, obviously, that would be extremely unsettling to like have that be the thing you remember most vividly is the most possibly like disgusting thing to like feel and like have and re-experience, like the taste of someone again I don't want to be too graphic, like orally raping me when I'm 5. um so I these things were kind of normalized, and I would say there was very few instances where I kind of looked at it in a different manner. um And what I realized very quickly is um, that, well, let me start over a little bit. I didn't feel like, and I guess this is ultimately what I got my head around, is the fact that I'm a guy, and this doesn't happen to guys, and that's what it felt like. Men, it almost felt like men didn't get raped because men can just push them off, right? Men can push them off. Men, that's not masculine, or like that's, don't talk about that, because I can honestly say I don't know any male rape victims in media or people who have talked about it like that publicly. And I do remember very vividly when like Terry Crews came out and he was like lambasted by everyone. I remember Wendy Williams did like a whole segment on it, and that stuck with me a lot because that was when I was finally like maybe a little bit starting to think about the sexual assault that happened. It was like right after it happened, somewhat, and it wasn't what I think it was a year after, and I just saw the reaction he got. I was like, oh, okay, so it is not manly to just push him off, right? And so I think that that's partially why the reason, because I don't, it's not like some, I don't enjoy talking about this. I just think that since I didn't see a lot out there, I think it maybe is important for me to talk. I don't know. I feel like I'm complimenting it. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, let me just leave that there. That was a lot. I know. Probably want to talk about it.
No, anything that you want to say, I want you to make. I want to make sure that you feel comfortable, but I don't want you to feel like you have to share too much, especially if this is new to you and you're just now talking about it openly and publicly. I don't want to push you to feel like you need to say any more. If
I'm comfortable talking. If there's anywhere that I feel like there's something I don't want to talk about, I'll tell you. I'll
Okay.
I'm fine if you have any questions or anything.
Well, first off, thank you so much for being so strong and brave and sharing your story. I understand that it has to be a little nerve-wracking to be so open and candid about your experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so I apologize that you've had to go through this, and especially in response to you telling people who are in positions who are supposed to help you, like therapists or adults, the response that you received kind of maybe forced you to have to kind of internalize this and not have the outlet to be able to receive the necessary assistance. I mean, that's I think playing into the stigma that you were referring to early on, is that I think the overall response to women coming out with sexual assault allegations and stories is a little bit more normalized. And I think that we're not even in a place to be able to process and know how to respond to men having same experiences. And so I think that that's maybe evident in the way that you have been uh, you've been responded to, and that's incredibly unfortunate. But I did, want to just start things off by telling you that we really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. In terms of the response that you have received here on Twitch, I hope that people are being open and you know this is giving them an opportunity to understand that yes, this does happen to men, and it's not something that's limited to only women, um, or this is not a feminine issue. This is something that can happen to anyone. Um,
Yeah, I would say the majority of the response I've gotten is positive, most definitely. Um, I mean, I feel like a lot of people, like when talking about sexual assault, and I think I've talked about it with one other person that was A4 Andre, and from the discussion I've had, I mean, a lot of people like haven't really even considered like I know it's a weird thing to say, but male rape victims, right? Or like the platforms being given to uh, underrepresented groups. Not under. I don't want to say underrepresented, but like groups that aren't traditionally shown in media or in like any context to like be the victims of such crime, because the idea of like the men are the physically stature ones, they're the like the saviors, right? They're not really the victims in these situations. That's the idea, that they're either the perpetrators or the victim, or the savior that comes in and saves the day or something. And the majority of the response has been positive. I mean, of course there's like the whole like there's like a few like what, well, if the teacher was hot it'd be different, right? Or like a lot, I've added it to my like Twitter bio because I think, because of a lot of the response I've gotten is from other men, like, and like an over, it's actually surprising to me like how many men and how many Twitch streamers have told me like, yeah, this is something I've also gone through. I don't feel comfortable talking about it in public. I'm happy you're doing it. That was a really like a it's good to see that. And so I've put it like in my bio in a lot more places because I want people to be able to see that exists out there, and people just like, I don't know, like in a Twitter engagement they'll like clip that out and be like, "Oh, but who raped who?" Right? It's very, but that's kind of how the internet works. I mean, it's sad to say, but that's kind of, I knew to an extent that was going to happen when it came out. I was very worried about how the future of how this would affect. I remember like thinking about the things that I was going to come out with, like what was going to happen. You go through like a lot of like weird develop. Of course, the most obvious one is no one will believe you, right? Which,
mhm.
I feel like I haven't really had a lot of people doubt my thing, which is cool. Which I wonder if that's because I'm a guy saying it, and I feel like that might be part of it. I don't know. Maybe it's because I've built up a certain reputation. I have no clue. But for whatever reason, nobody has ever like, I doubt your story to me, and that's a good thing. That's somewhat reassuring. I
I
also wonder where that comes from. Um, you want to say something?
I think that because it is such a stigmatized topic that men who do come forward with their stories of sexual assault or rape, because it is such a demoralizing thing to have to go through, it's dehumanizing, and it is just so embarrassing, um to even think about that for a man, especially because men are not in a position where the social constructs dictate they would be victims of rape, that and it being so embarrassing to have to go through that. If you are a man and you've experienced it, then I think that your story is taken more seriously, and I don't think that it's doubted as much, um, as a woman who might come forward with their story.
Yeah,
um, I think that because it's just, uh, yeah, I think, and maybe it's because there's less men who are willing to come out, and
yeah,
that could be because, I think that the assumption would be that a man would not lie about their experience because it's such a humiliating process, or
yeah,
it's this or that why would they lie about this,
yeah.
and that same assumption is not granted to women or
Yeah, a lot of people
even
view it as like,
non-binary.
oh, well, what's to gain here? A lot of people view it
Right.
like people are coming out to
Yeah.
gain something. I think, which I guess, because it is true that realizing I was raped, and I can't, and like it's hard to say it out loud, but at the end of the day, it felt like an extremely emasculating experience. It felt like the first few days of it just really felt like, oh, I'm less of a man. It really did, and that's what it felt like. That another person raped me, and more than that, um, I was being told that the second time I've interacted with something of that type of conduct, I could have pushed them off, but I didn't, and then I, so it was my fault, and it was my weakness that was the reason, and that if I was just stronger, it wouldn't have happened, and that's how I viewed it for a very short period of time. And it is extremely, having that feeling like you're less of a man is so. That's probably was the worst feeling I had after realizing it happened. Like I felt less than because of what happened to me, even though I was the victim and somehow like something was taken away from me there. And I also think that part of it is the fact that I'm not throwing this at a content creator or like saying this content creator did it to me. So I think it's also because it isn't somebody that everybody likes, right? Like if I threw it at 10 million subscriber who whatever, right? And said this is the person who actually did it to me, then I think maybe that I would have received a different welcome because oh no, I know this person. They post funny memes on the internet. There's no way they could have like done anything. And then maybe that's part of the reason why people were more willing to believe.
Right. Um, in terms of freezing as a natural response to that moment, whenever somebody is engaging in this predatory behavior or outright sexually assaulting someone, that's actually a really common response, um, for anyone, right? Men, women, non-binary individuals, and so I hope that you have reached a point where you're not blaming, or you never were. It would be, my hope would be that you never were blaming yourself, because freezing is actually a very, very common response to anybody taking that step in misconduct and proceeding to do something that would be either considered sexual assault or rape even. um
I guess mostly not anymore. I mean, I guess there's some of it there, and it's not because like I need to be debated out of the position of it was emasculation, but it's just, I mean, maybe it's just because I've just been so bombarded with, well, I have literally no other explanations, or because when you think of like how rape against men has been used historically, right? It has been used as a tool of emasculation. So I guess maybe it's just because of that. Um, that is just something that's hard to remove it. But I would say that at my heart of hearts, I know that I'm not any less than of a man, right? I'm still like a full. It didn't take some like magic manhood like essence out of my soul or anything. Um. So yeah, I know that it's just I guess I wish that just some others knew that as well.
Right. I think that maybe with more stories coming from men over time, that will lead to everybody feeling as though they can be comfortable in speaking out with their own experiences. And sexual assault has there's a multitude of ways where somebody can be assaulted. And I know that it's still a very new topic, but I think that you're doing a really good thing with providing your story and kind of setting the tone, specifically here on Twitch too, and allowing other men who might feel as though they're in the same position or they have similar experiences to feel like it is okay to speak out about this. And this could be a really good first step in paving the way, even to allow men to feel more comfortable in speaking out against these instances of sexual assault and rape that men do go through as well.
Yeah. I mean, I hope so. I mean, I have gotten a positive response overwhelmingly, from the communities I've spoke at. Maybe it's because I've just spoken at like in some really wonderful communities. But I have gotten multiple like personal messages from other streamers, just chatters, just like, hey, I understand what you're going through. Listening to your stream actually really helped me a lot, and I appreciate you doing that. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing to feel. Uh, I One second. I'm just getting my thoughts together. I think that if anything, I always knew representation mattered to an extent. Well, I didn't always knew. I mean, I was like a little kid playing with Legos. Um, but of course, I knew representation mattered, and I guess this has just been one of the more like revealing experiences to me personally about how much it matters to see somebody who may not like look like you perfectly, but who has had some kind of experience or came from a similar place as you, as a man, as a woman, as this is that or whatever. And I guess this is just like shown to me how important that is, to hear somebody who somewhat looks like you come out and say that they've experienced something similar to you that is traumatic. And that is definitely something I have learned from this.
Absolutely. And I don't know, you were mentioning earlier that you were afraid of how this could affect you, uh, and it sounds like you've had, for the most part, a really good response from others. And do you feel as though this is something that you would be able to take a step further if there was an opportunity for you to become some of that representation that's kind of missing in media or just in the political realm?
I
If we could maybe take a step further to try to normalize men speaking out against or speaking out and sharing their experiences.
I would say I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like I'd rather not, but I mean, I look at the reception. Someone like, okay, so Terry Crews is somebody, just despite the recent thing that's been going on with Terry, that everybody's like going back and forth on. Terry Crews is basically like almost a universally loved figure. Like he's somebody that no one's really got beef with. Like everybody kind of likes Terry, and when he came out with his story, right, this extremely popular celebrity, everybody just kind of laughed at him. Again, that Wendy Williams segment was really just completely like disgusting, and that's somebody with like a huge audience, and just looking at that, right, and seeing that reception he got, it's hard to say I want to put myself in that situation, because no matter
Right.
what, I've already to an extent have gotten that reception, right? But if
Mhm.
I was to put myself on larger platforms, I would just get more and more of that reception. But to be quite frank, I don't think there's enough people doing it, so I feel like I kind of have like an obligation, like a moral obligation to, because there's quite literally no one really else I see coming out and saying this. I mean, I'm sure there are. I just haven't seen them, and that's the problem. There needs to be those types of figures in basically every community, and I haven't seen them in my personal community, in my actual like city or county. I haven't seen those figures really stepping forward. I haven't seen them in any of the online communities I exist in. Even political Twitch, which is, it's political Twitch. These are the issues we're supposed to be talking about. I haven't seen it. So with that in mind, I feel like I'm willing. It's not something I'm like excited to do, but I feel like I'm willing to if someone was to give me that platform. And I think the thing that definitely motivated me to do it was the reception I've gotten from other victims of rape who are male, and definitely seeing how much that helped them. Um, that helped a lot in like me wanting to go and talk to discuss this on like larger platforms. And you were talking about like how I thought this could hurt me. Well, of course, the first was like there's a lot of things because like the type of work I do, I work in like local politics and in political. I'm a political consultant. I advise campaigns. I want to be a public official. Very soon, I'm gonna be going on city boards. I'm gonna be in front of the whole city, like saying, "This is what we need to do. This is what we need to do," because I'm gonna be on a city board. And I felt like it was really weird mental logic I used. I felt like that. Oh well, you're permanently scarred in this way, or you dealt with this trauma. I don't know if you have the mental capacity to like lead or be involved in this type of stuff. You go through a lot of weird like terror scenarios when you're gonna come out with something like this. I actually thought, and this is the weirdest thing, and maybe this is just maybe I don't know, maybe this is a condemnation of how crazy I was going or a condemnation of political Twitch, but I genuinely felt like if I went public with this, would somebody just try to like use it against me in a debate in some fashion?
Oh my gosh.
I actually felt like that might be something that happens. And it was really weird. I don't know. And I also felt there was a weird thing where I also felt like am I gonna am I making this about me, right? Because when I'm seeing right now on Twitch is a lot of women coming forward, and it is mostly women because that's the majority group that is being sexually assaulted or abused online, right? So am I making this about me by coming out and talking about this? And I ultimately decided like no, because there's no way that this hasn't happened to men on Twitch. I mean, I remember, and I think that maybe the standards are different and the treatment's different, but it definitely exists. I remember multiple occasions where I don't really feel comfortable talking about uh, sex on stream. It's just not something I want to do. And anytime it comes up on a stream, I usually want to leave or change the topic. And for whatever reason, people find that really weird, and they try to like egg me on to talk about it, and it makes me extremely uncomfortable. Definitely like considering like why I might feel uncomfortable about that. Um, but I don't know. I feel like I'm not saying like people can't talk like sex on stream. Just like if somebody doesn't want to, like be more considerate. Like A4 Andre, for example. There's somebody I really love A4 Andre. I think he has a really supportive community. When I went on his like auditorium, and they started to talk about it, and he literally said beforehand, like, "Hey, if anybody wants to leave because we're about to talk about sex, leave." And that's when I did. I left, and it was really supportive. There was no like rock throwing, but sometimes on other panels, I felt like it hasn't been as supportive when I wanted to kind of stay away from these topics or not talk about this type of stuff.
Absolutely. And I think that with sharing your story and letting it be known that this is something that you're not comfortable with, then we as content creators should be absolutely considerate of that. And there should be no question. There's no there. I don't see an issue with having boundaries and sharing what you're comfortable uh, being a part of in terms of conversations. And I just think that that is something that we should try to normalize as well
Yeah,
as having the
streamers are allowed
opportunity
to
to.
have private lives. Yeah,
Exactly. Um, let's see. Well, you said that you're kind of working toward becoming a public official,
yeah,
and that's incredible. And I think that you will be an amazing public official one
thank you
day,
very much. Thank
since
you.
you're already doing so much. And I think that it would be it would be helpful to have somebody like you who would be bringing forward that representation. Not that it would have to be at the forefront of your identity, it wouldn't be something you would have to lead with, but perhaps it's more people who are taking public office, who are taking these positions in public office, who are willing to speak up and out against the stigmatization that you've experienced, and that might help to open up the dialogue to try to bring about this new opportunity for men to speak out against their own experiences. So I mean, as much as it might feel kind of scary or a foreign concept, it might be something that will one day be normalized because we have people in positions of power like yourself who are trying to kind of pave the way and make that environment a little bit more comfortable for men to speak out.
I
That really wasn't a question. It was just kind of like a
Yeah,
oh shit.
I mean, I do think, again, like, I don't really. I mean, Terry Crews is fun. He's cool, but I don't really watch any of his movies or like participate with his content that much. I think he was in a video game possibly at some point. Um, I think I forget what video game, but he was in some ad for a video game a while ago. I don't really. Again, I don't interact with his content. I think he was in Beach One. I don't know, but um, I seen him, who is someone I knew who's a celebrity, um, who's somebody who I has some sort of power, whether it's just a bigger voice or like a larger audience, talk about the experience he had, actually did help a lot, and that was probably my first experience interacting with somebody who was a guy who had dealt with something like this at a older age, too, like speaking out about it. And while the response he got was disgusting and not good, but he, but seeing that was extremely important to me. Which I do think that maybe seeing somebody who not only has like a voice but somewhat political power talking about this from the position would be cool. And I maybe of course legislation could follow too. For instance, one of the when you talk about like men who like have to deal with rape, prison rape is something that's not only like not really cared about in society, but is actively mocked. Even though these are people who are like contained in a facility, who are a lot of times trapped with their rapists, and that's something that I think legislation could definitely try to address.
Absolutely. I mean, you don't really think about the the hazardous environment that those who are incarcerated do go through, um, especially whenever they are confined and they have to. It's almost like they have to relive their trauma every day. That is just part of the normal process. So that would be an incredibly important piece of legislation that you could craft. Um, which is again why I think that this is a good opportunity. I hope that I wish the best with your political career because I think that you are a really good voice in representing leftist policies, but also the new kind of legislation that you could bring forward with your experience and with your ability to articulate the importance to bring forward this legislation because it's gone unnoticed for so long. Um, I think that it would be almost crucial at some point to start addressing these topics.
I really appreciate that, um, and I hope at one point I can do that. That I could have success in a political sphere while also having experienced what I went through, and if anything, that could be looked to as that experience could be something that could somewhat, well, I don't want to say it was good, but like productive, that like having experienced that I could be someone not only talks about it but like talks about like the types, and be like in the room talking about the types of resources people who have gone through this need, how just like throwing somebody in a room for therapy. Oh, here was one experience that I had that was really weird. I remember when I brought it up to a separate therapist when I was much older, and this was when I was talking about dreams that I had, recurring nightmares, where it didn't just stop there, it just kept going. And when I was started to talk to my therapist, they they call in like an apprentice to use me as like a case study for like a class, for like somebody to learn,
Oh my god.
which was really not great to have to just be like used in that manner when I'm trying to talk about that experience. And I understand the fact that this is somebody who want to, if they are going to be able to help people in the future who have experienced that, they're going to need probably case studies. But I think talking to somebody right when they're coming out about this probably wasn't the best way, and they should have maybe maybe on the 20th visit with somebody who've experienced that. Maybe talk to them beforehand on whether they'd be comfortable with somebody sitting in. So yeah, that was not a great experience either.
My gosh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, that just kind of it goes almost goes to show how it is it is an issue that maybe is brought up so infrequently that the therapist thought maybe now's the time to, bring in this apprentice because who knows when the next time will be. And
Another
I
male
think
rape victim, yeah.
and that's kind of an indication of how far we have to go with uh, having the opportunity to speak out, more male victims of rape and sexual assault to speak out, so that it's not like a unicorn moment and a therapist does not jump on the opportunity to bring in somebody to have a learning experience. I'm so sorry you went through that. It's incredible how insensitive it seems that adults and even therapists have been in addressing your real tangible grievances that you've experienced, and it's just almost alarming. Like it's almost shocking to hear that they have not only failed to listen and provide helpful advice, especially in response to you sharing that you're having actual nightmares. I just couldn't imagine like being so brave and standing up and sharing your story, and to be met with this kind of insensitivity. I mean, obviously, this is probably the reason why men, more so than women, decide not to come forward and share their stories, because this is the actual response from those who are in positions to help.
I I mean the thing is when you talk about like men getting mental health treatment in the first place, that's something that's already stigmatized, right? And then getting mental health treatment for something that happened to you that's extremely emasculating is only further stigmatized, right? So
Right.
it doesn't it's like it's layered, right? And then it's like not like I guess the pedophilia example when I was raped when I was a very small child. That's something that I feel like more people could probably like sympathize with, right? Generally, because I mean, like, what's the argument you make there? Push him off. I was 5. He was like in his 40s, right? Like, what am I gonna? I can't gonna like. It's impossible. But I guess like the later on the 16-year-old taken advantage by like a 40-year-old woman. That's where the whole like the hot teacher type thing kind of like comes around, right? And this happens a lot of times where a teacher sleeps with a student or something of that sort, and everybody's like, ah, lucky kid, even though this is a kid who just got like that was statutory rape. In many states, that
Right.
would be considered statutory rape, but they think the kid was lucky for getting raped, and that's how it's looked upon. Or like again, when it comes to male prisoners who get raped in prison, many people, and I saw that in your chat, it was a good point, view it as like part of the punishment.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess there's so many different ways to dismiss it, and it's already hard enough to get somebody who's had that experience in the room to talk about it, due to the layers it is to already get a man to talk about mental health. On top of that, then it's the fact that it's probably the most possibly sensitive issue with it. There's just so many layers that are going to stop men from coming out and talking about it. So yeah, I mean, it's just really it's hard to talk about.
And I'm sure that you would agree that it has so much to do. Almost the root cause of this is the social constructs surrounding men and masculinity, and and the roles that men are typically um, expected to play, and that they're supposed to be they're strong, and they're um, the ones who are not emotional or not weak. And again, that plays into the emasculinity portion of it. But uh, what do you think would have to happen in terms of reconfiguring our social constructs to begin this process of normalizing male rape victims and hearing their stories?
I think it's a united effort because like you said earlier, I mean, female rape victims aren't even like some where more people would sympathize that generally, right? Even though it already has a million questions that people have, like, oh, did she really? Was she getting out of it? All this other stuff. Is she just fishing for all this bullshit that they do, or to defend their favorite content creators, right? Um, and I can never imagine having somebody's boot so far down your throat to the fact that you will defend them no matter how disgusting they interact with other people. Um, I think normalizing that with rape victims generally coming out, sexual assault victims, sexual harassment victims coming out generally is definitely the first thing. Talking about how we need to believe victims. Of course, it's not something that like someone like me is going to face more. That's going to be extremely important generally for the movement because no matter what, if you're not believed, you can never even start having the conversation on how do we stop this from happening again if no one even believes you. And then on top of that, of course, there's going to need to be the question of like treating rape like what it should be treated as. It's rape. It's not a punishment for anybody. It's not something that's funny or cool. It's not something that like someone was lucky to getting, and it's definitely not the victim's fault. Not because they were strong, not because of what they were wearing, not because of whatever gender they were, not because of wherever they walked in the neighborhood at the wrong time of day. And it's never their fault. They didn't ask for it. And I think that general conversation could not only apply to, of course, male rape victims, even if maybe it's not their fault part or the emasculation part would be more applicable, but that could be applied generally for the entirety of the struggle for that to be more talked about in a positive manner. And I think when it comes specifically to men, though, I think just having more people talk about it openly and it being included more in the conversation, having more facilities available for men who were victims of such crimes, making it so that the resources that are made available to them are more productive, and making sure that health professionals are trained how to deal with victims who are male. Is of extreme importance too, and definitely addressing the large amount of rape and the incarceration system is a few of the places I'd start.
Well, sounds like you're living up to your reputation of being a policy advisor. Chat, is it okay to open up uh, the questions to chat to see if they have any specific questions they'd like to ask?
Sure.
Okay.
Same goes for my chat as well.
I don't know if chat has any questions. I mean, we've definitely covered a lot of topics, or talking points rather, to with regard to this topic. No questions,
Yeah.
just support. Okay, that's good.
Yeah. Just a lot of hearts, which I love hearts, but they're not questions.
Yeah.
I appreciate the hearts. Yeah, that's NBC3. Yes. And thanks, Rich Boat, for the raid. I appreciate it.
God. All right. Well, sounds like we've just got nothing but support for you on our ends.
Yeah, it looks like yeah, it seems that yeah, it just seems to be a lot of support, which is cool. I mean, I guess people are just listening. It's a topic that I guess isn't talked about a lot, so the idea of like I guess people just like are still processing maybe, or I mean, yeah, I guess like talking about male victims of rape isn't something that comes up a lot. Um I guess I would just reiterate that just to believe victims, to listen to their stories, and that most definitely do not blame victims. And I don't care if it's your best favorite streamer in the world, or your favorite politician or figure of whatever sort. Um, if somebody is being accused by people, you do not play defense for people or go out or try to attack, and definitely don't go out and try to attack victims. And that when it comes to male victims of rape, not only I think it's important for people themselves to understand what they're going through, and to, do their best to provide a supportive environment, but if they see other people acting in a certain way towards victims of rape, and I don't care if it's someone who's incarcerated, I don't care if it's somebody who's poor, white, black, or whoever, trans, there is not an excuse for them to be normalizing it or be excusing it, and to call people out when they're doing that. You don't need to be abusive towards them, but see if you're your best if you can have a productive conversation with them, trying to explain to them why that's not okay. And just everybody stay safe.
There's one question. Is there any groups that are currently available, like support groups, nationalized support groups for male victims of rape yet that you know of?
I actually don't. Again, this is something that's very recent for me, so I haven't really looked into support groups. I guess a lot of it had to do with any time I did go out and get support, it was kind of just rejected. The first time when I went out and told somebody, I was given goldfish, which is sorry you were raped, here's a goldfish, is not really like the perfect band-aid. The second time, it was, I believe the case study thing happened where they brought in somebody to use me as a case study. And the third time I brought it up, finally, like years later, the third time, when it was the other time I was sexually assaulted by the older woman, I was just blamed for it. So I felt like every single time I went to get support, it was just kind of shot down, or it was my fault, or, I mean, I like goldfish. I mean, I guess that's cool, but like that's not like help. So it felt like every single time I went out to get support, I didn't really get any. But I would say that like going out and looking for organizations that could, if there is an organization out there providing facilities or resources or anything for male victims of rape, and you do a decent amount of research into them and find out they're legit, I would definitely suggest you go support them.
Absolutely.
But also, like, I think the main thing, really, and I right now, is just letting people know that male victims of rape do exist. Because I feel like people know it, but they don't see it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I really appreciate it. If Chad, if you don't have any other questions, I think, well, it was almost about an hour of conversation. I think that Nusha had a good question comment. Sorry if this comes out too much, or maybe there might be something wrong with me. I was raped as a teen. If that person did not go through treatment for alcoholism in general, change as a better person and truly redeem, apologize for it, I would have reported it or told people who I actually forgave because I felt he truly did get better, and it's not the same. I'm sorry that you had to go, that you went through that. I think that everybody's response is going to be incredibly different depending on who the person is or your relationship to your rapist. I think that oftentimes you do know the person who is raping you, or it is within your close family or friends. And I think the most important thing is knowing that if you do go through these kind of things, that you have the ability to heal from them. And I think, that process is different for everyone. And right now, there's not enough avenues or outlets available for those who have experienced sexual assault or rape to properly heal from them. And that is the burden that you have to carry with you. That is trauma that you have to carry with you. And hopefully, I think that we all can agree that we need to provide more outlets for anyone who is experiencing sexual assault or rape to be able to heal from them, because they should not have to be burdened with their trauma for the rest of their life because of what somebody did to them. Um,
I would say, like, I'm not in the revenge game. I believe in a criminal justice system that helps people reform.
mhm.
And I would apply the same thing for people who have done what I consider an extremely disgusting crime. Every single person who abused me in that manner, I don't want to like light them on like there's some really weird like torture fantasies that people like kind of like I believe all of this group should have be buried under the prison and the worst upon the worst. I don't really like ever felt like that, like I needed to go on some quest of grand revenge. I just want to make sure that they can't hurt anybody else, and hopefully they get the resources needed so they could change, if that's possible. If not, then keeping them away so the rest of society can be healed. But I don't believe in like revenge. So if the person who did that to me, either of the people who abused me, genuinely healed and would no longer do that to other people and felt apologetic, then I would personally accept it. But I also want to say that that's my standard as a victim, and not all victims have the same standard. Some people can never forgive the people who did that to them, which of course is understandable. It's a horrific thing to have done to you, but that's my personal thing. But it's not a standard for the entirety of like all victims.
Agreed. Alrighty. Well, I thank you once again for coming on here and sharing your experience. You have nothing but love and support from this community, and I hope to have a discussion with you at some other time. Maybe we can talk about policy and talk about your road to becoming a public official yourself.
Oh, thank you.
That would be great. Do you want to shout yourself out?
Sure. My name is Dylan Burns TV. I stream on Twitch Foreign Policy. I stream. I host a lot of debates between people. I now play cowboy games, and I just talk politics and have a lot of fun on the channel. You can find me at DYLANBURNS TV on Twitch, and on Twitter you can find me at Dylan Burns 1776. Any support you send my way is greatly appreciated. And just thank you for giving me a platform, and thank you everybody for listening.
Thank you so much. Be in touch soon. Dylan Burns, everyone. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Hey, this is Dylan. I just want to let you know you can find my content live at twitch.tv/DylanBurnsTV. You can also find my link to my Twitter and Discord in the description. I hope you continue to give me support, and I appreciate you for watching my videos.